to Wake Up and Be Wealthy with your host, Nelly. So, we are trying out our new fancy mic that I've wanted for like over a year now. So please let me know when you're listening to this how the sounds. I think that I'm going to still buy. It's called like an enhancer, where it'll like boost the sound more. Just make it louder and louder and louder because it can't be too loud. So, we are talking about lack versus abundance when it comes to attracting clients. So, really, like the mindset around that and how to, even when you feel like you're in a lack mindset, how to shift into abundance. So we're going to just like dive right into it. But I want to give a shout out to our sponsor for today, which is Alyssa Terry. She is a Plexus member and seller. So I have known her for a while now, and she's actually in one of our programs and just a complete sweetheart. But she really wants to share Plexus with you and really be able to get you to know what that even is. So Plexus Worldwide offers science-based health and wellness products that fill in the nutritional gaps to help your body heal naturally. I love that. Our mission is to help consumers live healthier and happier lives by balancing their blood sugars and gut bacteria, reducing inflammation in the body to help sustain your energy levels, yes please, without that afternoon crash, yes please. She has samples of the pink drink, which I know that they are very famous for, and clean energy drinks that are available upon request. So please just check out Alyssa in the link in the show notes so that way we can connect you with her. But truly just a super sweetheart. I've really enjoyed getting to know her more and more and being able to support her in one of our programs. So let's talk about lack mentality versus abundance mentality. Again, this is really, really easy when you have like a full client roster and clients are super, super happy and they're like signing they're re-upping their contract. They don't even think twice about your prices, all of the things. But let's talk about when it's not going that way, right? Clients are leaving, clients are not even saying yes, or people are getting a little nitpicky about your pricing for whatever reason, and you just feel frustrated. This is when it is so easy and totally human to step into a lack mindset. You could also call this a negative mindset. You can call this frustration. It's just anything that's really not serving you, but also is feelings that you're having. And it is important to acknowledge those feelings. But if it doesn't serve you, we don't want to stay there. Okay, I'm going to say that again. If it doesn't serve you, we don't want to stay there, because the longer we stay there, I think the harder it is to get out of that mindset, that energy, all of the feelings. Also, I do believe like attracts like. So the longer you stay there, that you keep attracting more of that. And so at a moment's notice, you can call plot twist and you can say, you know what, I don't want to feel like this anymore. I'm going to shift, right? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, I'm going to shift. Okay, so how do we actually do that? So when you're ready for that, that's where I want this podcast episode to really, really serve and support you. So when you're feeling that way and you say, I'm ready to shift, dun, da, 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 this is the podcast episode for you. Okay, so I really do believe action cures everything. Truly. Like at the end of the day, when I'm getting in my own head, it's because I'm sitting around moping about it, thinking about it, frustrated about it. But when I just move, like when I put on my tennis shoes and I move, or my heels, depending on the day, and I just start taking action, I start creating content, I start being appreciative of the people that are actually in my corner supporting me, and I'm supporting them, and they love being a client, and they're so excited to be a client, and they keep showing up, session after session, and they're like getting so many breakthroughs. Again, like attracts like. So I want you to focus on what is actually working and who is working, right? Meaning like who is showing up. And first, let's be super, super grateful for them. Like literally, I want you to go tell your clients, I am so freaking grateful for you. I have noticed, this change, this change, this change. That is not only going to make them feel really, really good, but equally, it's going to make you feel really good because you're noticing the changes in them that maybe they haven't stopped to appreciate, or equally, if they have, they're going to be so excited that someone else is noticing. It's kind of like I think back when I lost a bunch of weight before babies and I finally did it. Like I finally lost weight. I can't tell you how frustrated I felt, right, before that happened. But when people started to notice, even though I knew I was losing weight, it was just so nice to have other people notice, right? Everyone wants to be noticed. Like the founder of Mary Kay, Mary Kate is her name, Mary Kate Ash. She says like people literally walk around with a sign that says, make me feel important, right? And so even though your clients are paying you money, doesn't mean that they don't like to hear words of affirmation, right? Like, yes, you're there to like challenge them, but equally like love on them because it's going to give you love. It's going to fill you up. And that's really in that moment of lack energy, frustration. That's what we need most. And other people need it too, right? So do it because it feels good for both parties. And then from there, once we appreciate who's already like surrounding us, we want to create more of those people, right? So where are they hanging out? Because I like to think about like, okay, how many clients do I actually desire? And if it's, let's say it's 4 or 5, like, and we want this to be like life-changing, right? We're not going for like this whole series is not about like low ticket offers. I think those are great. They can attract dream clients, but we're really thinking big. We're thinking high ticket. We're thinking luxury. We're thinking people that are excited to spend a lot of money because it can be life-changing for both parties. The more somebody spends doesn't always equal their results, but it does equal access, right? Like most masterminds are very high ticket because they're high touch, right? Which when you are in that energy can really support you. Again, it doesn't mean guaranteed results, but if you have somebody that is paying you for ads and you're doing the ads, typically it's going to be high ticket, right? Because then you can be obsessed with their business because the energetic exchange is correct, right? It feels good. I don't want to say it's equal, but it's equivalent, right? It like for what they're paying, they're getting an amazing result. They're getting amazing support. And so with that being said, we want to go for life changing. And so you probably don't need a ton of clients to get to a big goal of yours, right? Like, would it be life changing if you got 5 high ticket clients or 10, right? And these can still be like in a group. I don't want you to think that you have to like seek people that are individual, but it can be one-on-one. It can be like a high ticket event or program, like a mastermind or a retreat. But what would be life changing for you? Because we want to start thinking about, okay, if it's 5, for example, there are 5 people on this planet that want your support. We just gotta find them, right? I love thinking about this and putting a number to it because it actually shifts my mindset into so much possibility because I'm not looking for everyone to like me and to pay me money. I don't have the time for that. I've got 2 small children, right? And so when I can go for higher caliber clients, then I don't need a lot of people and I can give away a lot of knowledge for free, which equally makes me feel so good, right? But then there's less people to answer to, right? So it's such a big win-win. Like I can continue to put out free content and still serve a small circle of clients and be able to have just this amazing business and still be able to be a mom and a wife that I want to be, right? And so we're going for what number would be life-changing for you, okay? We also want to think about, do you have the room in your calendar for these people, right? Like if you had to onboard all of them today, do we have the room, right? Equally, do we have the time, the energy, right? So the materials, everything. And this is so important because it's going to keep you busy. It's okay if you say, oh gosh, no, Nelly, I don't have the, space on my calendar. I don't have the materials ready. I need to do a lot of things. Guess what? A body emotion stays emotion. It's going to get it out of your brain. So you're going to drop from your mind to your heart, and you're going to focus on creating. And when an artist is creating, they don't really think, right? And so you're going to be able to just get out of your own head and just be. Be in your business, be in your work, be in connection, in community, in creation. And I am happiest when I am in that energy. Like truly, if I'm on a masterclass, if I'm literally doing this right now, I can't think about anything else. It's too like focus driven that like it's almost impossible to think about anything else, right? And so once you're doing this, right, then we can also start to think about marketing, right? Because I don't believe that we can just sit behind a computer and never reach out to anyone, never put any like content out there. So then we do need to think about your content strategy, your sales strategy, again, which is also going to keep you super busy. Just because you haven't hit that client goal that you're wanting, that you're desiring, doesn't mean that it's not going to happen. Just because it hasn't happened yet does not mean that it's not going to happen. There's probably so many steps that you're already thinking about listening to this episode where you're like, I've got my work cut out. But guess what? You can move mountains pretty quickly when you're focused, right? So if you're trying to do a million different projects at once, stop. You just told me that getting this amount of clients would literally be life-changing for you. Life-changing. So that's what we get to focus on right now. Everything else that you possibly can that is not going to like, obviously if you've got to file your taxes, file your taxes. But anything that we possibly can, we're putting on a parking lot list and we're getting it off of your schedule for now. Okay? Put it on a parking lot list. You can get back to it when you're just literally onboarding everyone and everyone's super happy and you have all of this money coming in. A lot of times I've talked to this about with my mastery students. They're our mastermind, okay? A lot of times we haven't gotten here yet because we might be self-sabotaging. It may not feel safe to have a full client roster. Maybe you've never had that amount of money. And so although you keep telling yourself that you really desire it, if it hasn't happened yet, there could be a percentage of you that is self-sabotaging. And we really want to identify if that is happening, because more than likely it's probably because you don't feel safe having it, right? Or you don't trust yourself that you can handle that many clients. So is there any opportunity to get back into your head for a second? I know that sounds like counterintuitive, but I do want you to get back in your head and be like, are there any blocks? Are there any patterns of self-sabotage? Because I don't want to pretend that they're not there. You may not know, and that's okay. But I encourage you, as you start taking action, do you still find yourself making time for other things on before this, right? Because this gets to be the most important thing in your business. And now that we've like worked through this and said, okay, it's time to take action. If you notice day after day, week after week, if it continues to not happen, I guarantee you there is some form of a block there or many blocks, some self-sabotaging. And guess what? All of it is reversible. Truly, it is reversible. And I want you to know that so you have hope and you have excitement. It's just going to take, again, more intention, more focus, and probably a little bit more time, but that's okay. I have had my fair share of self-sabotaging, my fair share of blocks, and it does take a little bit longer, but when you're so self-aware, you can really work through it, start building trust with yourself. And this is where like a coach or a mentor like myself really does come into play. I remember when I mentioned like losing the weight, I finally did it when I had a community of support around me. Now, do I think that's the only reason that I did it? No. I tried so many times and I failed. So then I got to a point where I was like, let's just try this last resort. But the support really did help get me into the energy that I needed to be. So I almost like borrowed their confidence, borrowed their belief for a second, and then started showing up for myself. And then I was able to be self-sustainable with all of their support in the beginning, right? And so this is why coaching and mentoring and like having a community around you is so valuable, because of blocks, because of self-sabotaging, because of slowing down. That can still be a block if you're like slowing down when you do have like the bandwidth to do it. So I just invite you to like think through this after you take some action, so you're not again stopping yourself. So take some action and then look for some signs of blocks, slowing down, self-sabotaging. Equally, I think there is a balance to not burning yourself out, because that can also be a block of like, oh my gosh, I can't do anything else. I have to work my ass off. I like, who cares if I don't have friends? Who cares if I don't have a good marriage, right? Like, so that is still a block, because you're telling yourself that you can't have this business unless you work your ass off and not enjoy yourself, right? So there's just so many ways that these patterns come in, and we get to be just like very mindful of them so we can work through them, right? And so it's just like a check-in with yourself as you're like going through your week of how you're feeling, right? And that way we can really stop and say like, okay, are we doing the thing because it feels good, or we feel like we have to? And so we just want to always step into that abundance. You can absolutely get to that client goal so freaking fast when you do these things and when you have support. Like truly, truly, truly. We are actually launching our membership. It is so freaking affordable to have that community around you. More information on that later, but I'm just so freaking excited for you to get to that client goal that you desire, because then what I love to help you with on top of that is having digital assets that can be making money for you in your sleep. But it's a little challenging to do the digital assets before you've filled your client roster, because you're losing sleep because you're more than likely not making the money that you desire. So to tell you to build digital assets first may not feel good depending on where you're at in your journey. And so this has just been a little bit of a shift that I've done in my teaching of like, let's literally fill your client roster, because that's going to give you just a delicious amount of money, because digital assets do take time. They do take money to get up and running, and they're not going to be an overnight success. And so we want to have the time and the energy and not that scarcity mindset when we're selling digital assets. So this is just a perfect shift. And like, okay, let's fill up your client roster and then get to the digital assets so that you can be making money literally 24/7. And eventually you may decide to stop clients, and that's okay. I truly still to this day accept clients because I freaking love it. I think it continues to like keep me as a strong, sharp coach. I love knowing what's going on in the industry. And so I still do choose to have a handful of clients. It's not as many as I used to. I don't see them as much as I used to. So I've really engineered it to work with me, and I want the same for you. All right, I love you. You've got this. Start taking some action, and then we can work through those blocks and patterns and really get you to your goal in a record amount of time and celebrate. I cannot wait to celebrate with you. You're amazing. I'll see you back on the next episode.